All right. So, in the spirit of going through some more videos, and with Valhalla having ended, from the Norse pantheon for the time being, we've always talked about, or at least I've always talked about it. The other two, Kyle and Mangler, here joining us today, always kind of like expressed some casual interest in it, but I was always going to make some versus videos regarding the Greek versus Norse gods because I thought it'd be fun. I thought it'd be fair. And then when I was talking about Zeus versus Odin, I think it was on Kyle's stream, or was it your stream or Kyle's stream? Do you remember that conversation?
One of the streams,
Yes.
probably Kyle's.
Some guy casually mentioned that Zeus had a lightning bolt that nullifies magic, and I'm like, no, he doesn't. And there was. Just look it up. I'm not going to put scans in for this one. I assure you, everything we're saying here is probably mostly accurate. Maybe
This is a low edits video. It's done post research, but we don't put in scans because of laziness, not because we don't have them. Trust me, our videos have proven that. Assume we have everything.
Yes. So while it is, less exciting than I would have liked, no reason not to talk about it, since we more or less can, now that we have all the information, more or less. So we'll be running through 5 matchups, which I put in Mangler's DMs, which was probably not the right idea. Mangler, can you send me those matchups into the video making station?
I can send it into voice chat text or literally anywhere else, but yeah, let me copy paste that real quick, and then I will put that over here. Oh yes, there's a little chat right there. That's kind of cool. Let me just boing.
Beautiful.
Right over there.
So I guess before we get started here, we should clarify. We're not going to be having. I don't think we'll need to have an overarching discussion on where God of War scales. We're not going to be discussing like how the cosmology works. We're just going to assume they're comparable because ultimately, I think they are comparable. Granted, I think the Greeks are a bit stronger, but overall, I don't think the difference between them is night and day in terms of raw power. Or would you disagree with that, Mangler?
I think the games in the Norse's case do show differences, but like when Kratos starts awakening the rage from that he experienced through God of War 3 when he was at his peak, and he starts fighting Thor with it, Thor's like, "Oh, that's the God of War."
Yes.
And Thor's like not intimidated by it. He's not backing off by it. He's completely fine with the idea of fighting someone at that level.
Yes.
Plus, we have statements that reinforces that there are characters that are that strong, such as Kratos' impression of Thor.
Yes, Thor, the statement for Thor, the statement for Tyr, Kratos, I believe also implies in the Valhalla DLC that Tyr is among the most powerful he's fought in, or among the strongest. And there's like a flat out.
And then Odin almost.
Yeah.
I was going to say Odin fights like him and Freya and Atreus single-handedly by himself.
And there are statements, at least in the God of War art book, that confirm that Freya is supposed to be on par with Kratos. So they should all be comparable, with maybe some Greek gods being stronger than some Norse gods, more or less. But the difference shouldn't be like, we're going to one-shot you.
Now, I would say that there might be a bit of a difference between the very strong, like the first and the second strongest gods, because technically Kratos does have to get the Spartan Rage to be on the level that he was at in God of War 3. And I'm pretty sure that would just be like where God of War 3 Kratos generally sits, because God of War 3 Kratos is almost always angry all the time. At least constantly being amped.
No, say it ain't so.
So because of that, no matter how you would interpret it, Ragnarok or God of War 4 Kratos, well, in this case, God of War Ragnarok Kratos, would be weaker because he's not always in the Spartan Rage.
Yes.
So who he's fighting would also technically be weaker because they're not always fighting Rage Kratos, and non-Rage Kratos can still damage them.
Yes. So yeah, but for the most part, some differences in skill, there will be, or not skill, but in power, there will be some advantages here and there. Personally, I think mainly for the Greeks, but we'll see what happens. But for the most part, comparable, so don't worry about the other power scaling. Speed will be discussed per person, along with skill and the like, or their like actual movesets. And beyond that, I think that's all the prerequisites needed to be talked about, or do you have anything else you'd like to add?
I don't think so.
All right. So Do you want to start with the bottom or the top? Because the top one probably will end a little faster.
The top one
All right.
going down because these will slowly take less time.
All right. So Zeus versus Odin. You guys ruined this matchup for me. I want you to know.
So Odin's main advantage is his ability to produce a lot of magic and a lot of different spells.
Yes.
However, it has a few major weaknesses. For starters, due to being a mage, he doesn't primarily engage in close quarters combat that much. Almost a lot of what he does is just ground slams that he does with the staff, or attacks that he can get off that happen to have a big enough splash radius. So any character that's good in CQC that is also like that could just dodge around his attacks can probably beat him or can
To
probably put him in heavy disadvantage.
I'll say, yeah, I would say heavy disadvantage because to be fair, if you pay attention to the CQCs during the fight, while Kratos is pressing him, Odin is able to like break out of his holds and do stuff to him in close quarters combat. Granted, mainly followed up
Yeah,
by
but
magic.
I would assume that's mainly because of his speed.
Well, so I would just say that if he hits you, he's not hitting you vastly weaker than other like gods at the top tiers
Oh
here.
no, no, not at all.
It's just that
I'm
like
just saying
everything
he
else
doesn't
in
have
this matchup.
skills. He doesn't have skills that are designed for close quarters. Like he's
Yes,
not going to
no, he
grapple
likes
you.
keeping
He's
you
not
at
going
a
to set you in
distance.
a combo and then hit you like 50 times and then send you flying. He's just going to hit you once and send you flying, and that's
Probably.
it. He's going to be like the guy in the fighting game that does safe pokes and then backs off.
You want to say he's a Hadouken spammer?
Oh well, there's
Yes.
also the second problem, which is a lot of his arsenal is kind of. I don't want to say it's. I don't think it's up to interpretation. I would say it hinges on interpretation.
I
Like
mean,
what he can do, and his magic hinges on how high you want to like put Odin in terms of his capabilities. But that also depends on what you assume he can do based on him being Odin, which
so
also carries the problem of his credibility.
so to be fair, I do have the God of War 4 art book. I believe the God of War 4 art book does state Odin either knows all magic or is the father of all magic. But let me double check that because I know that's kind of contradicted with the main game.
So whether or not it's contradicted with the main game is not my concern, though that obviously would change, that obviously would reinforce what I'm saying here, which is that claims made about Odin, or making a claim about Odin's magical prowess, is very difficult to reinforce when Odin himself is consistently a liar. It is very difficult to convince someone of his prowess. When when you know what I know, when you know that he is a person that is constantly manipulated and swiveled people into positions in order to get what he wants. So I'm kind of very uncertain about what his level of skill would actually be with magic spells.
Yes.
Are you going through the guidebook right now?
I am. All I have right here is Odin is a god who's manipulating who Odin is a god whose manipulating of magic and people is deadlier than any sword. We leaned into a wizard-like feel for him. Uh, Dang it. So the problem is that the guidebook is written in phases of the artwork because there's information in the guidebook that gets contradicted by the main game. It's just that I think that might be where Odin's fire statement comes from. But so yeah, so Odin is predominantly a mage-like fighter who, depending on how generous you want to be, even if we let's say we give him all magic or most magic in the Norse pantheon, that's a little less comparable to what the Greeks had at their higher
So
tiers.
I didn't bring it up because I thought the magic would be useful. I just meant in general, it's difficult to prove he could have all of that magic. It's difficult to make that claim because of the fact that his station, his authority was established based on him being the strongest and lying about it. and constantly lying about people. If we give him the benefit of the doubt and say he has the magic, he doesn't really get anything other than your standard projectiles that have different elemental capabilities and maybe some Bifrost magic.
Well,
that's about it.
You would give him Bifrost magic, and you would give him Freya's elemental magic, but I don't really think that matters for this matchup.
It doesn't really, because the Greeks have at least the same elemental magic, except some of theirs actually does stuff.
You want to just throw a Norse under the bus harder while you're at it? I think you.
I don't think anyone who clicked on this video that doesn't know about me doesn't know my positions on the Norse's arsenals compared to the Greeks. But I will just say that his strongest momentum, his strongest advantage on the table is something that requires a pretty massive assumption that even if we were to give to him, only gives him a decent arsenal by the standards of the opponent that he's facing.
Yes.
Whereas if we go with Zeus, Zeus. If we go with Zeus, the difference with Zeus is that I don't have to assume Zeus is like what he can do with his lightning, because we have consistent examples of him just using lightning in different ways, blasting people off the sides of clouds or mountains, transforming into the lightning themselves and making himself elementally intangible, stunning people with the lightnings, like basically paralyzing them, power nulling them with the lightning. He's got a lot of different things he can do with the lightning. He can even make lightning clones.
Well, actually, I believe the clones look more physical, but you could just argue they're made from lightning, yeah. I think they do, like, spark with lightning, but he can make clones effectively, regardless of what they're made of.
He could also just shock the clones with lightning, so he could literally turn them into car batteries that he just throws at you.
And that's just lightning alone. Not only that, Zeus has size manipulation, which I don't think the Norse gods are ever implied to have that. They never demonstrate it. So yeah, Zeus has size manipulation, flight, an actual healing factor, which is a massive advantage in any God of War fight.
So then he's also a really good close quarters combat, because he is able to fight Kratos with his full in-game arsenal, just mainly using his bare hands.
Well, yeah,
keep in mind he has no weapons.
Yes.
Repeatedly. He fights him in multiple encounters.
And he actually beats End of God of War 2 Kratos too, technically, but Kratos does sneak attack him and almost kills him, to be fair. Actually, that wouldn't even have killed him now that we think about it, because like the Blade of Olympus would have killed him.
He's able to fight him multiple times, and even when Kratos at the end of God of War 2, going at the beginning of God of War 3, climbs up the side of the Mount Olympus, he just blows Kratos off the side of the mountain. Yes. Now, I'm really of the belief that Kratos probably would have been able to fight him for an extended length of time, but Kratos in the novel does make it clear that, like, if the lightning hits him, I don't think he says it's game over, but it's very dangerous for the lightning to be able to hit him. And this is like one of the strongest versions of Kratos.
So it's wiping his forehead, like, oh, thank God that missed.
He spends in the novels. Kratos spends most of his time dodging attacks. That's how he usually deals with a situation. When he sees it, he tries to dodge it. That is his first instinct, is I need to get the fuck out of the way and not let myself get hit by that. He doesn't spend a lot of time tanking stuff unless he just gets pushed in a situation where he's fighting enemies nonstop. He slips up by mistake and one of them grabs him. But that's usually not something he intentionally does. That's not his fault, usually.
Yes. So... go on.
We have enough evidence to suggest that he could definitely push up on Odin's position. God of War 3 gives a better combat system to show how he can advance. He can literally just shuffle, move, dash around, summon a bunch of clones, and then just start shooting lightning at you.
Yeah, he can teleport too, right? Can't he just like actually teleport?
I don't remember if he can teleport, but even if he can't, he can just turn into a cloud of lightning, and then at that point he's intangible. And not only that, he could turn into a cloud of lightning, which, again, is fucking lightning. So he could just run straight at you. He's intangible. He's full of lightning, so he damages you and is completely safe. So he just gets free damage, and you don't get to interact with him.
Yes. And that's just their raw power sets alone, not even
We
including
haven't
the
even
fact of their
we haven't even gotten into
weapons.
the arsenal. Yeah, like Blade of Olympus, the Gauntlet of Zeus, and then I believe
He should have a shield somewhere. There should be an Aegis somewhere. Zeus used a shield, I'm pretty sure.
no, he doesn't use a shield, but like I'm pretty sure there's like at least one other weapon I could probably. I mean, there's probably some stuff from Ascension's multiplayer, most of which probably does lightning damage, but in general, either one of these would be an end. Uh, the Blade of Olympus is literally like an energy absorption weapon that can also like I think it's like a life drain if it stabs you, especially on gods. So it would definitely work on Odin, and it also in Zeus's hands when he uses it, he actually uses one of its best abilities where he just BFRs somebody. That's the first thing he does when he shows up with it in the series. He BFRs all the Titans to the bottom of Tartarus. So he's got this massive long range battlefield BFR that hits everybody and sends them away. He can stab you and absorb this information, absorb this power. Also, I forgot to mention this. He can not only transform into animals and other people mid fight, he can also absorb your power, as he did to Kratos.
Well,
He absorbed
then
his power.
he nullifies it, doesn't he? Like
No, he doesn't. He absorbs his power and gives that gives it to the Colossus to bring it to life.
wasn't that with the Blade
He
of
takes it from
Olympus?
no. So at the beginning of God of War 2, you see a little. It's like an eagle flying around. It basically zaps Kratos. Basically, and I thought at first he was power nulling him, and then after he zaps Kratos, he lands on the Colossus's shoulders, and then that energy flows out of his body into the Colossus and brings it to life.
That's pretty silly.
Yeah,
So
no, I'm pretty sure it was a long range attack too while he was flying, so he can just be like poke, just do that, find an inanimate object of his liking, and just put the energy into that and make Odin fight that while he's also fighting Odin.
and like 5 other Zeuses probably, given how generous Zeus is with his cloning in the final fight.
Then he's got the Blade of Olympus, which also has like BFR, energy projectiles, drain energy, stab you, and then the
Tech.
wonderful. Well, we'll go ahead.
Oh no! You were gonna go into the gauntlet or what?
I was going to go to the Gauntlet. The
Yeah.
wonderful powers of the Gauntlet, which has the ability to transmute you into a wall. Because he used after he BFR'd them with the Blade of Olympus, he went down there with the Gauntlet of Zeus, and he transmuted the Titans into the wall. He fused them with the wall. So, yeah, I mean, he could just grab Odin, throw him into a mountain, and be like, "You're now the mountain. Goodbye."
What you saying he's gonna do a Mimir on him? He's gonna turn him into a second Mimir?
He could literally do to him what Odin did to Mimir.
All right, but hang on. That's all impressive. But let's hear what Gungnir can do.
I mean, I guess Gungnir can stab you, and it.
Impressive.
I
Very
mean,
impressive.
I guess it killed Odin. Or I guess it killed Thor, and his body disappeared. So, like, highest interpretation, I guess it deconstructs you. Though, if I want to bring in the actual reason why Thor's body isn't there, there is a statement from Matt Sophos that, like, there are two different reasons why, and for gameplay reasons, the reason why his body isn't actually there is just because they didn't want his body clogging up the reason he died in cutscene was that they didn't want his body clogging up the battle arena.
I don't understand how
So they
that was
just
an issue. Like, just in general, like, I know he's a big guy,
I,
but like, oh, you can't jump. Never mind. Yeah, that could be a problem.
I don't know why they didn't just like why they couldn't just put his model on the ground and then make it like phasable, like you just walk through it.
That'd break the immersion, and to be fair, that's what PlayStation exclusives are very well known for.
Oh
The
yes,
immersion.
dude, the immersion, the immersion. I'm sorry.
No,
That's just
no, no, no,
very
no.
stupid.
Very rude, Mangler. Very rude. But yes, so
There was, yeah, they were also trying to represent the fact that, like, I guess he had died. Yeah, that there's more parts of the statement. I could go and find them if I really wanted to, but like the main reason was that they were getting his body out of the arena.
yeah, and Gungnir, I don't believe has any descriptions, and there's nothing in the guidebook or at least the art book talking about Gungnir. So even if we assume it can dismantle you, we're assuming it does that. We don't know what caused that to happen. We're just attributing it
We're
to Gungnir.
also we're also going to assume that Odin can really like hit Zeus with this. Because like Odin can stab you and hit you and the rest of the characters with these weapons. So I find like it would be a little odd to assume that he could just deconstruct everybody on point, just because it happens to Kratos when we don't even have a description of any of its abilities. We have no descriptions for Gungnir at all. We have no lore for Gungnir at all. So we'd be making like a massive assertion based off of a visual effect in the cutscene when we have no other evidence or anything to even point to that. And we have reason to believe that that visual effect only happens because the developers just didn't want him in the arena. It
Well,
wasn't even because they were like, we wanted to present Gungnir in this fashion.
well, it says
Go
I
ahead.
wanted to see because I think we actually do see Kratos get stabbed by Gungnir in a QTE section. Let
I'm
me
pretty
see.
sure he doesn't disappear.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I like you could argue it's deconstruction
Like,
after you died.
well, if it's deconstruction on death, then it's, I mean, forgive me for saying this, but it's basically useless. Because if the win con is that it just keeps you down if it kills you, then it does nothing for 99.9% of the fight.
Yes, yes, he does stab Kratos with Gungnir directly in the chest, and Kratos just like just shakes it off. So it does not dissolve you on contact.
I mean, the thing is, the main concern for me is that it just doesn't, like, we don't have any evidence to suggest that it does. Like, we just have the Thor thing, but the Thor thing only happens because they didn't want his body in the arena. That was the only reason why. They just didn't want it in the way.
Yes.
It
Also, yeah,
wasn't done because they were trying to demonstrate Gungnir's powers.
yes. But yeah, no. So I just wanted to clarify that yes, it does not dissolve you on impact. And
So
to be fair, Thor was still
I,
alive. It wasn't until after he died.
yes, I think Zeus can probably take this pretty handily. His lightning, his mobility, clones, the size, a bunch of, well, maybe it's a premature for me to mention this, but like Prometheus does confirm that Zeus took away his immortality. I don't know how, but that's technically something that Zeus can do. He made Prometheus mortal, and he also cursed him to have his organs basically be regenerated every day so that he could be eaten out by this bird, or have his lungs eaten out by this bird.
Yes.
So technically, since we don't know how that occurred, like we don't know if Zeus has to like
Do something.
grab you or do something. Like we don't know if he has to chant a blood ritual, shoot you with, I don't know, 10,000 volts of electricity, spin around and do a jump kick and then you get cursed or something, or if he just touches you and you get cursed. Like we have no idea what the prerequisites are. But I'm just saying he knows that he can do this, and other titans have literally confirmed he can curse you and can take away your immortality.
Also,
So
well, I was gonna mention
I was
also.
gonna say he could probably like electrocute him and bind him down if it was a process that took him a long amount of time.
Yes. But no, what I was gonna say is just also there's the little tidbit on the table of not only just being able to nullify magic, which is 99% of Odin's entire arsenal. Uh,
Yes,
there's also Fear Zeus, which is still technically on the table. So even if by some miracle Odin beats Zeus, and then he could like actually beats him, Fear Zeus is just gonna come in and beat Odin by that point. Because the Norse
I was
gods
gonna
don't
say
demonstrate the I guess the healing factor is the right way of putting it, to keep going the distance the way Zeus did.
I don't. I completely forgot about Fear Zeus because I didn't even think he was going to get past base Zeus without the weapons. Assuming he manages to get through all that, like, yeah, this giant, stronger Zeus is just going to come out of his body and start punching Odin to death.
Just the way
There's
God
not really anything
intended
you
it.
can do.
So yes, practically definitively, I think, and I don't think anyone would contest this outcome. Zeus would probably be Odin in a fight. Probably low diff, if no diff, honestly, just because he can nullify magic, which is just so fucked.
Now, like, he has a lot of weapons that are like instant win con, like electrocuting and binding someone to a position, turning into a cloud and being like
Dude,
uninteractable.
it's just so
Gauntlet of Zeus.
ridiculous.
Gauntlet of Zeus freezes you to the side of the wall and you're just done. Can't move, can't do anything.
God, Zeus does sound like an actual god. Odin just sounds like a hobo on the street.
Zeus is like the only one in the pantheon that actually has powers and equipment. At his best interpretation, gives him like a.
All right. So now that we've covered the Zeus versus Odin, the next one is Aria versus Tyr. So
Hold up a minute. There's something wrong with that.
nonsense.
Okay, there we go.
There we go.
All better.
Aries versus Tyr. Yeah, so Aries versus Tyr. Now with the events of Valhalla firmly behind us. I don't know if you've seen Valhalla at all, Mangler. Have you?
I have not.
All right. So I'm gonna have to do some actual heavy lifting here on the powers and ability section. But so Tyr is a playable boss, or is a boss you can fight during the events.
I have to use the restroom.
All right.
Sorry.
Valhalla. No, you're fine. You're fine.
Go ahead.
No, you're fine. I'm just gonna start pulling the powers and abilities because either that or I'm gonna have to rewatch the boss fight. Let me see here. Okay, yeah. So thankfully, VSB has come up to par with the powers and abilities. We'll wait for Mangler to come back. And then we'll go from there. Oh, good lord, I haven't seen Kratos' page on VSB in so long. I would. Yeah, no, we're not gonna focus on that today. Not today's him.
Back.
Yes. All right, so.
All right. What was said?
All right. Well, I had nothing crazy. It's just that I haven't actually been on VSB for a fat minute, so just seeing low complex multiversal level Tyr just seems so off to me. But
Gross.
not for this video. So Tyr's abilities include runic magic and Bifrost, extrasensory perception and information analysis because of having the same Bifrost eyes as Mimir, which lets him see which Tyr's nuclear is him. Statistics amplification via his armor, but I don't think that's fair to give him because he doesn't actually have it anymore. But I guess it'd be fair since it's his armor. It just makes you stronger every time you take damage, essentially, but you have to activate it, so it's not like passive that way. Knows martial arts, can manifest weapons. He can manifest a spear shield combo, 2 Egyptian blades, a Aztec. I don't know how to pronounce it, unfortunately, but you know the Aztec wooden sword blade that has the shark teeth on it?
Yeah.
He has one of those. And the Japanese katana. Energy projection. Can create shockwaves.
Just tell me if any of these weapons have anything that they do that is.
No. They, as far as I know, they are just normal weapons that he just picked up on his travels. As far as I know, there's nothing special about them. He just collects random weapons. Energy projection. He creates shockwaves and launch out energy blasts with his weapons. He can blast people with bolts of magical lightning. Just your standard like magic energy or energy projection. You know, so you've played God of War 4. You know what I'm talking about. Fire
Yeah.
manipulation with the Aztec weapon, which ice manipulation with his katana, status effect inducement. He can daze people or render them. He can render you blind for a little bit. He does have blood manipulation, but that's only been shown to create blood orbs to attack you. He does have life force absorption, apparently. I would actually have to double check that one, but he can drain targets of their life and to heal himself. He can summon enemies in Valhalla, but whether or not that's his power, Valhalla itself is a little debatable because he can manipulate Valhalla. He can teleport. He can create illusions. He does have darkness and light manipulation, and with the Unity Stone, he does have dimensional travel, which allows him to travel to the realms and pantheons outside Norse pantheon, because that's dimensional travel.
Terrible.
So yeah.
Okay, so
Go ahead.
aside from probably a lot of the stuff on the profiles that is just wrong in terms of like the general cosmology, so probably like half the stuff they have on there. As far as most of the energy projection,
Wait.
hmm,
Okay, so actually, I'm watching how he absorbs life. They deliberately walk up to where he is, and they open their hands out, and he starts draining blood from them. So
yeah,
I don't think you can even use
uh,
that like against somebody else. It looks like they're
that's
willing.
that's disingenuous. That's disingenuous. You you have to literally, man. I've got blood manipulation. I just produce orbs of it and fire it like Dead Man Wonderland. Okay, so there's not anything else you need to do it. You need to do to
That's
activate
a
this ability.
spicy
Sure,
reference.
sure, totally.
So yes, and beyond that, some basic, elemental manipulation stuff of that nature. Apparently, he resists the Bifrost because VSB claims that they resist the magic that courses through their body. So he has Bifrost. That's pretty good. Bifrost like does something.
Um, I'm going to be honest. I think Aries probably has better projectiles overall.
How dare you say that? All right, so let's run down sort of what Ares can do. Also, Tyr
No,
is able to fight post Ragnarok Kratos, so his skill should be on par, but I don't really
so
think
here's
it's
where
huge.
here's where I would say that the main argument for tier or a win for tier would probably come from statements that we have about Kratos during God of War 1. Because technically, well, he has nigh Olympian strength and he has fought various gods before. He has killed Persephone. Um, he is technically strong enough to fight Ares during the events of God of War 1. It's just that he needs Pandora's box in order to be big enough to fight him. If you recall, in the videos that we did, especially for the cosmology, I explained that Bruno has provided clarity on what the point of Pandora's box was in order to kill a god, because someone asked, well, if you like, when did you guys realize you were wrong, right? Like, because you said this was the only weapon that could kill a god, uh, but the blade of the gods is right here, and he's like, well, no, Kratos needed that to be able to fight Ares, and then someone pointed out, well, he fought Persephone before, and Persephone's a god, and Bruno was like, well, yeah, but Persephone didn't turn giant before, so he didn't need the box in that instance. Which means Pandora's box didn't really give him greater strength, it just gave him greater mass and size to fight Ares. And
Okay.
that is a weaker Kratos than the one in God of War 2. At least the God of War Kratos. And, the ones in 3. Presumably the one in Ragnarok.
Yes. I am looking
So
at the powers and abilities, and oh my god, he has like double the page. Yes.
yeah, I would say that like the best position that you could probably take here, the most accurate position that you take here, is that Tyr probably is faster and stronger because he's higher up on the food chain of the gods, so he probably would be able to fight Ares more effectively. even though Aries could BFR him technically, but like I doubt there's anything Aries could do in that BFR that would really kill him.
Well,
Because
so
go ahead.
would you agree with Ares having accelerated development since his warriors do have a blessing from him that makes them stronger over time?
Uh, debatable.
Debatable.
If it is, what is that over time period like?
It
Years
says
and years.
gain elemental and physical damage over time, resets on death, uh, per minute. So technically it is per minute, but it's a 20% increase every time, up to 10 times. So Ares can make himself 200% stronger. No, actually, no. Yes,
So
10%.
only 2 times stronger.
Don't say it like that. Well, he
And
also
it's
does
every
have a healing
minute. So,
factor.
wait, hang on. So if we take that at its highest interpretation, it's every minute he gets 20%. So you're telling me he has to survive 20 minutes before he gets a boost.
I absolutely, I absolutely believe he can do that.
So assuming,
Well, he has regeneration.
I mean,
During the fight against Ares and Kratos, Kratos grabs his spider arms and stabs him through
yes,
his
but
chest.
he also stabs him directly in the midsection with a blade, and that kills him.
But that's after a prolonged fight, so we can assume that like we'll just assume that the healing factor drops over time. Or we actually technically Mangler is wrong. I forgot about this. He's actually fighting Power of Hope Kratos. Mangler is wrong.
Which apparently only made him bigger.
Yeah, but no. So he also has precognition, comparable to Kratos. Oh wait,
What the fuck?
never mind.
Precognition.
Never mind. They're giving him
Okay, get
precognition
off
consequence.
VSB. Their position is not
He's got
reliable. They completely ignored
telekinesis.
the vast
He's
majority of the
got
novels.
flight. He's got teleportation,
I could tell
mind
you any of the things that he could
manipulation,
do, and I wouldn't be
telepathy,
lying about it or being
biological
disingenuous.
manipulation, pain manipulation, and dream manipulation. No, wait, he has power nullification? What? What is
They
this?
argue that because of Kratos, because he takes away Kratos' weapons and magic, but I'm pretty sure that's also because he holds, like... Because Kratos... He literally gave powers and abilities to Kratos because he's one of his warriors.
Uh,
So I don't think it's fair to argue that he can do that to anybody.
Apparently, he does claim, or the VSB is claiming he does use the Army of Hades ability against him. If that's true, then that
Yeah,
means he can rip other powers.
yes, from Kratos.
Yes, but that's not a power granted by Ares, though. So Ares gives him
But
the chains,
so
and that's it.
you don't understand. He's only able to take that stuff away from him to begin with because he's his warrior.
Technically, he's not Ares' warrior at that point, Mangler. He's technically
Oh,
Zeus's.
come on. Are we really going to look at the Blades of Chaos and be like, he's not Ares' warrior?
Oh, wait. Apparently, yeah. He also has absorption, memory manipulation, probability manipulation. Oh
I
no,
mean,
I think
I fully believe he has a better arsenal than Tyr. I've always like thought he's had a better arsenal than most of the Norse
he's
characters.
got regeneration negation.
I just think stats wise, he's much weaker than Tyr, and Tyr's probably going to kill him before he
Uh,
gets the chance to use that.
okay. So ignoring VSB shenanigans here, and I'll stop listing their encyclopedia for a minute. I don't think so, because this would have to be under the assumption that you believe that Kratos as a warrior combatively has grown substantially more than what he used to be at in his Greek era.
I
Because
mean,
he's
he
become a
wouldn't
better
need to be
fighter.
substantially greater than he is in his Greek era. I'm saying like he would just be more powerful and faster.
Well,
It
yes,
would
he
make
would
a
be.
noticeable
Well,
difference.
yes, he would be more powerful and faster. But like, how big of a gap are we talking about? Because Ares was planning to fight Zeus.
Yeah, then that just meant he was going to fucking lose. Like,
Are you sure it took the power
yeah,
of
okay, so let me put this in perspective for
no,
you.
fuck you.
Kratos, the
No.
guy who killed him, got the power of God of War on top of what he already had, along with all the powers and abilities of like the Titans, which included the powers of the Titans that amped him went to fight Zeus and was like, man, if Zeus's lightning hits me, I'm fucked.
Okay,
over.
okay. I hear you. Counterpoint.
I'm pretty sure,
How does
based on that
Tyr?
admission,
How does
what?
Tyr kill giant Aries then? What's he gonna do? Stab him with that little pinprick of a sword?
I mean, considering he has the power, the same level of power, he could just. Well, actually, why would we even arguing this? Giant Aries would be a bigger target.
Yes, but
He'd be a bigger target.
Tyr's a very mobile champion with attacks that are very like they don't go very far. Like
You're
if
not
we're
going to have
talking
to go
Thor,
very far to stab Aries. He covers the entire arena.
yes, but are we really gonna say he just stabs Ares in the shin and Ares just dies?
Have you not played most of God of War? Most of God of War is you just climbing on the backs of like gods that decided
but that's Kratos
being big.
climbing. That's Kratos climbing with Ares'
Are you really going to tell me Tyr can't climb up the side of a dude's body?
I don't see no chains on him, Mangler. I don't see no hook blade.
So I guess Tyr can't jump.
Well, he
can't like.
No. He can't. I think he does have a jump attack.
You're telling me he can't use like his blades to just climb up the side of the wall?
Well,
Nothing like that.
How big of a difference are we going to give Tyr here? Are we going to say like he could just no sell Ares hits then?
Considering the fact that Zeus could do heavy damage to Kratos if he was going to hit him, yeah, because this is a way weaker Kratos. This is significantly weaker.
Actually, Power of Hope, literally.
Power of Hope Kratos is just God of War 1 Kratos made larger.
So the Power of Hope, Mangler, I'm going to have to step in with that Power of Hope.
Stop with the memes.
Final offer, Power of Hope.
Well, this is a negotiation.
All right, so then if we assume that Mangler is correct and that Kratos isn't using like the Power of Hope to amp himself, then I guess technically Tyr has the stats to win and skill.
Here's my caveat. If you believe it's a stats difference, Tyr stomps him. If not, and they're comparable, Ares is going to camp him the entire fight, and basically Tyr is going to... Tyr is going to be like any person playing Marvel vs. Capcom being zoned to death by Magneto. He's not going to have a fun time.
Hang on. I'm not done yet. I have a new argument. Ares will just throw a mountain at Tyr until he gets tired. Beautiful. Ares with his God tier strategy just starts zoning Tyr out, and Tyr can't close the gap. Incredible. He can teleport. Fuck. All right.
Well, hang on. He's got that that Unity Stone. You know, he should be able to dimensional travel outside of the arena and gain some distance.
All right, fine. Since you don't believe all the powers and abilities make the difference. Wait. Ares can hit the soul though. Would we argue that could be a potential? Well, no, because we're assuming he's faster and stronger than Ares, right?
Yeah, it's like if you're not going to be able to hit him, it wouldn't really matter unless Ares. Because the thing is that Ares has a lot of really good range projectiles, and he has attacks and things that he could do that hurt if they hit you. But I don't think he has an AoE attack that can hit the entire battlefield all at once, like as it rises up from the ground. Like if you had an ability that could just actually, no, he does. Okay, so he does have like a giant wall of flame thing that he can do from like Ascension, because you are given Ares' blessing. But that's kind of like a telegraphed thing. He has to like charge that up, and then he slams it into the ground, and it shoots giant volumes of flame. And when Kratos does it, his blades of chaos are covered in fire before he does it, so it's very obvious he's about to do it.
Are you saying Tyr would be smart enough to see it?
Tyr would probably use his eyeballs and look at that and say, "Oh, that's gonna hit me. Better move out of the way. Better put some distance and teleport."
All right, then we will give it to. We'll give it to freaking Tier then. Not happy about it.
I know.
All right, so then who is next on our list?
I'm surprised the call hasn't cut out at this point. I'm on the computer.
You've gone silent like 3 times, but you come back real quickly, so it's fine.
I think that's because I just drift away from the mic.
All right. Then our next matchup is a bit of a spicy one. Thor
Bit of
versus
a spicy.
Poseidon. A bit spicy, just a bit spicy. So, unfortunately, because of the nature of the Poseidon boss fight, we have to have this fight occur near an ocean.
I was gonna say electricity versus water. I think we know how that's gonna turn out.
Well, actually, Poseidon has electricity too, Mangler. Did you forget that? All
Sure.
right,
Well,
so
okay. So here's the thing, right?
uh,
Thor should scale higher than Poseidon, given his
oh,
statements.
ooh. That's you think so?
Yeah,
Ooh.
no, that's
Ooh.
fine. I don't see what's contentious about that.
Well, here's the fucking problem. You're fucking wrong. Right off the bat, let me start off with my boy, Poseidon, able to fight end of fucking God of War 2 Kratos and start a God of War 3 Kratos. And Kratos needed Gaia's help in order to win. So he technically fought both Gaia and a Kratos that scales to Zeus. Case closed.
The Kratos at the end of God of War 2 is like way weaker than the one at the end of 3.
Nope, never heard of it. I mean, regardless, the fact still remains that he can fight Zeus at the end of the God of War 2, and he'd be stronger technically because it also has the Blade of Olympus.
Do I want
And
to just
so
pull out the novel statements where Hades and Poseidon are absolutely terrified of his brother?
doesn't matter, Mangler. Doesn't matter. He'd still be comparable. The difference isn't that substantial. I'm not letting you get away with another tier
Okay,
bullshit again.
well, so I could offer something in. So as far as hacks go, I don't think Thor has anything going for him. He's literally like a giant dude with a hammer that just flies around and can shoot electricity, but doesn't even use his strongest advantage, which is his flight. Um, Poseidon can summon horses, could summon the entire ocean, basically drown you. Could probably summon any number of like creatures from the sea to attack you as well. But he also just has the what is it? The powers of the Eye of Atlantis.
Yeah, but I don't remember what that does.
Basically, its force destroys the. It's like this energy amulet that produces electricity that can destroy the body and the soul of the person it hits.
Yes, and I believe his lightning also. I think his like lightning attack in the first game also states it can destroy the soul. If I'm not mistaken.
No, it doesn't. However, his lightning in Ghost of Sparta will kill Kratos if Kratos falls in the water. And this is Kratos after the events of God of War 1.
All right.
This is like right before he becomes the God of War. So it is dangerous enough to just flat out kill him.
Okay, so we
Um,
have a man who has the access to the entire ocean and everything at his disposal, including hydras. Is Typhoon in the ocean or
Typhoon would not be available to him because that is a Titan that is not aligned with him.
Titan's a
But
monster strangler? Or I mean, not
I'm
Titan's a
saying
monster.
he would probably have most of, well, the Hydras based on his reaction would probably not be at his disposal because he considers them like filthy creatures, or at least he would never use them. While like most creatures of the sea would be at his disposal.
Lightning, soul manipulation. Does he have a
He
healing
could,
factor? Does we say he has a healing factor?
I don't know if you can argue he has a healing factor because his only fight in the series is against Kratos, and that precedes to end with Kratos beating the crap out of him, poking out his eyeballs, snapping his neck, and killing him instantly.
All right. So, to be fair, Poseidon probably has more abilities than we're mentioning right now. I don't know how many more would be relevant. Because technically, he can also just hide in the sea and attack through other means. He doesn't have to do his giant form if he chooses.
He could also just do the smart thing and just pull Thor underwater and keep him nestled underwater with the waves. And then it becomes a game of how long can Thor breathe underwater?
I'll say, can Thor breathe underwater? Let's find out. Well,
because Kratos can't breathe underwater.
So Thor can. So I'll offer a bit of a like an olive branch to Thor is that Thor's flight ability would make him very well suited to take on Poseidon's giant form, ironically. But
yes,
any mistake Thor makes that puts him into the water is game over, and that's assumed. And to be fair, we don't know how mobile Poseidon actually is because you only ever really hurt him because Gaia holds him down. So if he could like dissolve the water immediately and then come back up every time, like that just becomes a much harder fight.
Well, so the thing is that you have to remember he was fighting on the side of a mountain. He was in the midst of trying to prevent all the Titans from coming up the side of the mountain, not just Gaia.
That's
so
true.
He was the main forward soldier pulling everyone off the side of his home, and he was also not close to the water. He was like miles and miles away from the water at that point because he had pulled himself well up the side of the mountainside. We'd be talking about a situation where he's just at a lake, just chilling out, and Thor just shows up and is like ready to die. And he's just on surface level water. He doesn't have to fight him 2 miles offshore. It's like asking someone to like a waterbender to fight in a desert, and they get access to like a couple jars of water when there's an oasis 2 miles down the road.
Nope.
That could make all the difference.
So I will say with the water advantage and everything, I think Poseidon will take it unless you genuinely believe Thor scales way higher and he would just be able to like devastate him immediately. I don't think that's the case, but I'm sure some people would disagree with that. But I will.
Even then, I'm still convinced he would have killed Kratos at the beginning of God of War 3 if he had actually been in the water. I don't think Kratos would have won that fight at all. And I don't think there's any reason to believe he would have won that fight. He got lucky that they were climbing on the side of the mountain.
In the fight too, because even with Poseidon being out of the water as far as or like sort of like that far away from his main source of water, Gaia had to hold him down still. If he could have pinned Gaia down completely, Kratos would have lost that fight.
Or at bare minimum, he would have been detached from Gaia's body and would have fallen off the mountain. So he would have had to climb his way back up.
Poseidon could have probably won the entire fight if he just dragged Gaia and just broke her hands off.
Honestly, if he just got the rest of his brothers to attack them.
Literally did anything during that fight. He would have. Never forget that Zeus had to watch his brother get disrespected like that and did nothing.
I mean, he watched his entire family get disrespected and did nothing.
Well, to be fair, I think Hades kind of deserved it, but Poseidon was doing more work. Hades had a fair shot. But so I'm going to give this one to Poseidon with the water, but as a fair caveat, if you decide to give Poseidon outside of the water, this is a no-diff fight for Thor. It doesn't... Well, I don't know. If Poseidon's lightning can destroy the soul, and if he can hit Thor with that might...
Well, so if it's outside the water, and you think Thor scales way higher, then Thor could probably take it if he's like bloodlusted or he's aggressive from the start. But if it's normal circumstances outside the water, he could probably still fight Thor. If it's in the water, Poseidon washes him, literally.
It's something else. Like if Thor shows up the way Kratos did when he killed Poseidon and just starts beating the shit out of him, I think Thor for sure takes it out of water. If Thor's a little more calm and is a little more collected like he was at the start of the game, There's a case they made Poseidon could just destroy his soul, and then that's it. If your soul gets destroyed in the Norse pantheon, you lose everything basically.
Yeah, you're done.
All right, so Poseidon in the water, out of the water, favored by Thor. In either circumstance, the winning side probably wins with a low diff.
Yeah.
All right.
Then Heimdall versus Hermes.
Oh, spicy.
I don't think this is
Well,
I don't think there's a very big back and forth here.
Hang on. Heimdall can read Hermes' intentions, therefore Heimdall can predict Hermes' moves and dodge them accordingly.
So apparently all you need to do to overwhelm his sight is to hit him with something that disrupts his senses. Or actually, the thing is that the Draupnir spear doesn't even disrupt your sense perception. It just it's just an explosive.
Yes.
It's just like hitting him with enough energy or concussive force just fucks him over. So I can just argue any amount of force hitting him repeatedly will eventually make him lose his cool and just make his, what's it called? His person reading significantly less effective.
Yeah, you mean his intention perception, you could say.
Yeah, whatever it is. So Hermes has the disadvantage here in that he has technically a worse arsenal, but Hermes' one gimmick is just that he's incredibly fast and he has the best speed feats in the series because he is faster than like the strongest version of Kratos, technically. And Heimdall dies to like a Kratos that's not even trying to like kill him and is about to walk away from the fight halfway through. Just because Heimdall was being a petty little bitch. Like he was really angry at Kratos because Kratos was going to spare him, and that was incredibly disrespectful. That's what brought on his death. He had an opportunity to leave, and he died because of his foolishness. Whereas Hermes was like, yeah, come kill me, Kratos. Kratos tries to kill him, and you have to chase Hermes for like the next 20 minutes.
Bruh.
Like, it's not like, even if you could read Hermes, I could just argue Hermes at the worst could make the fight an inconclusive. Because I don't believe Heimdall would ever catch Hermes. There's no reason to assume he would ever catch him at all. And even then, even when he was wounded, he's still running circles around you. A wound, which, mind you, happened as a result of him being, like, damaged by a rock coming off course. Yes. As part of, like, a gameplay sequence. Like, that happened specifically so that Kratos was able to interact with him. I don't think that reasonably happened in a reasonable circumstance because that's such a stupid occurrence to occur for him to get hit by a boulder.
And to be fair as well, while like giving him the benefit of doubt saying he could dodge it, he's comparable to Kratos in speed, and the second Kratos figured out how Heimdall's ability worked, because so to be clear, the spear specifically just let him get close enough to start swinging effectively.
Yeah, and then as soon as that worked, he was able to start marking him with his fists.
And after seeing how Heimdall actually fought and dodged, you actually just see that you can just hit him afterwards with none of the spear damage. So, while I would say Heimdall could predict Hermes' attacks, if Hermes just keeps attacking in close quarters in really tight-knit groups, Heimdall's just going to get overwhelmed regardless. And
well, it's also like... You read, it says you read his intentions. So, like, what if Hermes just clouds his mind with nothing but intentions of him going to murder you, but nothing specific?
Then there's also, like, the fact on the table of, like, technically the Bifrost power isn't really active for Heimdall because you have to assume Hermes rips off one of his limbs. So the second phase never even really happens. And we do
He would
have the
just
realm shift, but can he realm shift without the Bifrost ability? I know it's on his sword, right? It's the hilt.
no, I don't think he can realm shift without the Bifrost ability, but that wouldn't matter anyway because I think the fight is mostly just going to be a war of attrition. It's just going to be Hermes running back and forth, and even if you think Heimdall could potentially dodge him, the problem is that the speed difference between the strongest version of Kratos was already significantly greater. I would argue Hermes was several times faster at maximum speed. He was still faster than Kratos when he was wounded. He was faster than Kratos when he was wounded. So, if you consider that, the difference in speed between him and like God of War Ragnarok Kratos should be way faster. And God of War Ragnarok Kratos scales to Heimdall. So from Heimdall's perception, even if he can read his intentions, you would have to argue that he's perceiving the intentions of a guy that's moving so much faster than him. He'd have to be like instantly auto reacting to it the moment he gets the information, assuming Hermes hasn't already hit him at that point. Like we're assuming like this comes down to, is the information traveling to his brain by the time Hermes has hit him in the face with a sucker punch?
Yes.
Because if the answer is no, or even slightly, he loses the fight. Because all he's going to have to do is get hit once or twice, a couple times, enough to piss off Heimdall, and then his intention reading is going to become less effective. And then it's just going to keep getting less effective over the fight, and then eventually he'll just die.
All right, yeah, that's fair. Ultimately, Heimdall just doesn't have the speed to keep up with their none of the feats. And yeah, that's fair. So the last matchup that we kind of thought about for this one is, well, kind of a bit of an obvious one, but Baldur versus Hades, since, the last of the big three gods, and technically you could argue Baldur's the big part of the, well, no, but you think Heimdall has a higher place than Baldur in Odin's little repertoire?
No, Heimdall's a dog.
Gosh darn, okay.
Well, so I mean that in the sense that, like, the way he's talked about by the developers, they make it just sound like he's a self-absorbed dude that just wants to be he's just the tip on Odin's shoulder. He just constantly wants to seek approval. So it's whereas Hades is more like, I'm in a respected position of power. I kind of feel like Baldur's in the same position because he is their best tracker. Like he would be one of the main gods that Odin would be turning to when he needs to get something done.
All right.
Not to mention he's his direct son. I'm trying to remember what Heimdall's relationship is to Odin.
Random fucking orphan he just picked up after kicking a dog on the street. All right.
Somebody. Well, he's not Odin's son. That much I know.
All right. So then Baldur versus Hades. Baldur's impervious to all damage, both physical and magical.
So let's talk about that, because I have talked about it several times before. In God of War 4's novel, you find out, as well as in the game, that you can actually just kill Baldur by snapping his neck. It's just that the way his immortality works, the way his curse works, is that it just heals him. It prevents him from dying from a lethal wound, but it also just heals him. So the damage is still done. You can still snap his neck. You could snap his neck 500 times in a row. He would keep coming back, or miraculously, his healing factor would prevent him from dying. Like he would have type 2 immortality where he just can't die to an attack that would kill him, and then his body would just regenerate. He's not like coming back to life, if that makes sense. He's not resurrecting himself. He just doesn't die from an attack that would kill him, and then he regenerates that damage. As far as the magical part, the Leviathan Axe can freeze his body. That is possible. It's just less effective because he can regenerate.
So what you're saying is that it's not that he's impervious, You're saying it's just
No,
that it can't put him down on its own.
yeah, no, like a lot of the information that Mimir gives is not exactly accurate because we see in the game and in the novel that you could literally kill him. Kratos has killed him multiple times physically. He can't put him down because of his immortalities. Mainly just his healing factor. Enter Hades, the guy that has soul-based attacks that can rip out your soul, can shoot souls at you, can summon an army of the dead to attack you, can summon the dead anywhere from under the ground to attack you at any point in time. And yeah, I mean that, and he can make himself giant if he needs to, like any of the other Greeks. This also kind of depends on where the fight happens as well. Like, I would be willing to bet that if Balder, well, actually, how would that work if Balder were to fight him in his realm? Could he just toss him into the river Styx?
The river Styx removes all magic, right?
Yes.
I think that's viable. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that would really affect Balder that much because Balder doesn't really rely on magic. He kind of just does a bunch of
that should
dog
nullify
rushes
the
and
curse.
punches. Oh, yes, that should nullify the curse. I'm just saying, as far as his arsenal is concerned, that wouldn't change his like offensive abilities.
Balder has some magical, or he has some ice abilities, if I remember correctly. I don't think he has fire.
He does. He does, but they're not like.
He's mainly a brute force fighter. He's
mainly a brawler.
Yes.
Yeah, that's like more of a support ability, whereas Hades kind of leads with summon a bunch of chains in the room, throw the claws. I mean, his literal first attack in the boss fight is coat the entire room in like darkness or whatever, or in the darkness of the room, do a sneak attack on you and rip out your soul.
Yes. And you think that'd work on Balder?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. At bare minimum, even if it didn't, I mean, I'm pretty sure, like, strength-wise, you could argue he's at least in the same level of power, because any God of War 3 version of Kratos, or a character that scales the God of War 3 version of Kratos, should be stronger than, like, most versions of God of War 4 Kratos.
Yes. So then you think not only that Hades has the stats for this fight, he also just
I think he's got the arsenal.
Yeah, he's also got the arsenal.
Yeah, because keep in mind, while he does scale the God of War 4 Kratos, he scales to like a fraction of his power, because God of War 4 Kratos beats the fuck out of Balder. He beats him around like a ragged doll. Like, the entire first like sequence with Balder is you slamming a tree up against his abdomen, throwing him through like rocks and the sides of mountains, punching him out of the air, snapping his neck. Like, you're beating him senselessly. The only reason he's alive is just because of his healing factor. In terms of strength, Kratos outclassed him instantly. He was not a threat. And Kratos was also being very like pacifistic. He was like, please leave my home, go away. Balder hits him and he's like, go away. I'm asking you one more time. Leave. He's like, I do not want this fight, but you came to my home and you bothered me.
Alright. So, no, that's fair. Ultimately, Balder just... No, he just doesn't really have an arsenal, which is a problem with most of the Norse pantheon, except for Odin. But Odin got screwed over because he fought the one guy who could nullify his arsenal.
Well, it's also like, I think the worst part about it, aside from the arsenal issue, is that most of their feats, well, most of these characters in general, actually, all of these characters fight Kratos. But the difference is, which Kratos are they fighting? Are they fighting a Kratos that wants to kill them and is bloodlusted and has a great arsenal, at least by God of War standards? Or are they fighting a Kratos that doesn't want to fight them, has maybe 2 weapons at best, and is like super fucking rusty and has lost most of his powers? And in the case of Balder, he's fighting literally the weakest Kratos in the Norse pantheon, who's lost most of his powers and abilities, doesn't have any weapons other than the Leviathan axe and his fist, doesn't have the Blades of Chaos, doesn't have Draupnir, doesn't have any armor or equipment or talismans or anything at all, doesn't have Atreus, and still kills him like 3 times in the fight.
Don't say that.
I want to be clear, he loses to the worst Kratos in terms of an arsenal. Hades fights one of the best Kratoses and dies. His death is more impressive than Baldur's life.
Oh no, remember that by the time Kratos fights Hades, he's gone through the River Styx already. So, well, this is still a...
Yes, but keep in mind, it is established that not only would Hades be like the 3rd strongest, he confirms whenever he absorbs a soul, specifically when he's going to absorb Kratos' soul, he gets stronger. He's the only god in the actual pantheon that has a statement where you can argue he actually gets stronger over time because he has a mechanism where he gets stronger, aka whenever he takes a soul. VSB is fucking wrong again.
All right. So then, yeah, because even worst case scenario, let's say it's only the soul manipulation that wins this fight. The Norse souls are not the same as the Greek souls. If you lose a portion of your soul at all, you're kind of fucked in the Norse pantheon.
Oh yeah, I kind of forgot about that. I was just going to say the weapons in general, like even if he didn't pull out the souls, he could just use them as normal weapons. He could just stab him like over and over and over again, and even if it doesn't come, well, even if it doesn't come down to that, he could just bind Balder to a bunch of chains. Like Hades and a lot of the stuff in his realm is designed to imprison you. I'm pretty sure he could just summon up a bunch of weapons and things to pin you down to a location and keep you from moving. I mean, after all, according to Mimir, apparently Balder can be held down by the weight of how many arrows was it?
No.
How many arrows was it? 16?
Okay. Sorry, my mom's asking me how much money she owes me. I don't remember the exact amount because I don't want to talk about it. I think I just repressed it. I think I just repressed it.
Well, so the point is that Mimir basically says that there was a bet that Balder did to see how many arrows it would actually take to hold him down, and he asked a bunch of archers on top of Asgard to fire arrows at him until they held him down, kind of in the hopes that some of them might be able to kill him, of course, because that's always what he's hoping for. And it was somewhere in the neighborhood of like anywhere like a dozen, 16 or something, maybe 32, like somewhere around there, held him down to the ground. So enough weight can pin Balder to the ground. Hades has access to chains, the actual claws of Hades, various souls and things that he could throw at him. And he also has arms and crap that he can pull out of the ground. So he could just bind Balder to the ground.
Apparently he says 446 arrows exactly.
446 arrows. Okay, I mean, it doesn't really make a difference how many. I'm pretty sure I could argue Hades could pull out that many arms if he really needed to.
Well, no. We don't know how. We don't know what the arrows are made out of. So if they're made out of wood, like, I think the 18. No, I think I remember what the 18 was. The 18 number was from. I think that's how much. I think that's how much we assumed the total weight of the arrows was. Because the weight of one arrow was like, hang on, let me look up the standard weight of an arrow.
Either way, it doesn't really matter. The point I'm saying is that a certain amount of weight can just hold him down. By just throwing a bunch of projectiles at him, you can just pin him to the spot. Hades has projectiles in the form of extra limbs and shadowy powers that he can pull out of the ground at any time that can just be right around your position and grab you and hold you to the spot. So all he would have to do is just do that, throw the claws of Hades at him, which, keep in mind, he'll realize Balder is essentially like immortal, and but his immortality works by him regenerating. So what Hades will probably do is claw him down to the side,
yeah,
hit him with an attack that kills him, and then pull out his soul while he's regenerating.
So
and then Baldur's fucked.
Yes, but so yeah, going off the average weight of an arrow is 400 grains. That's not even 0.01 pounds. So I think the number you're thinking of is like 18 kilograms or something. That sounds like because I think that's what we calculated it as.
That's not that much.
No, that's exactly why we keep bringing it up.
That's also not good. Not good in this circumstance when Hades can also make himself a giant.
There is no doubt in my mind that if we're being honest, Hades could just use his chains, or worst case scenario, he could just push Baldur to the ground and just keep him down with just one hand, would just do something else with the other.
Or he could just imprison him. Like I can argue that would be a loss if you can immobilize the other person permanently. I feel like that's probably a loss because Baldur can't continue the fight since he can't break out.
Yeah, worst case scenario for Hades, he BFRs Baldur into the underworld and then just chucks him into the river Styx.
Not BFRs him, just summons a bunch of arms and just pins him down and immobilizes him.
Yes, that
would be permanently.
Well, actually, no, because that happens in the game too. Remember, Freya immobilizes him with vines.
Yes, you can do this. It is literally something that works on him.
Bruh. So Hades most likely just takes that fight. Scales relative, if not higher than him, has a much better moveset and arsenal, and just has way more advantages than Baldur does. And for those of you wondering, at the very bottom, the Freya as a free space, that was just how, like, if we wanted to, we could discuss Freya versus some potential matchups, but the thing is while Freya does scale to Ragnarok Kratos, she has a very limited arsenal and suffers from the same problem Odin does, ultimately. Actually, no, she's more in line with Tyr, if we're being honest. Odin has more powers than Freya does.
She also doesn't have really a lot of good matchups, honestly.
Yes, because the only other, like, female... I mean, like, we could put her up against, like, Zeus, but Zeus is gonna win. Poseidon's most likely taking that.
Her position is just like, the Queen of the Valkyries. But, like, I don't think there's anything that really fits that position in the Greek pantheon except for maybe Hermes, because he's like the messenger of the gods, but that would also just be in line with what Heimdall is. So there's no one that really fits her position or role.
Well, let's be nice and let's just say Freya versus Gaia, since they're both Earth people. What are your thoughts on that matchup?
I mean, Gaia's not really that much of a fighter.
Wow.
So it depends on how well Freya can climb. We'll say that.
So ultimately, it looks like by the end of this video, the agreements we have reached is Zeus beats Odin. Tyr, unfortunately, worst outcome scenario beats Aries.
Thor or Poseidon can go either way, but in most cases, it will probably go in favor of Poseidon unless you're intentionally putting him in an area without water because you want him to be nerfed.
Heimdall
but that would Hermes. Be like Heimdall versus Hermes goes to Hermes. Baldur versus Hades goes to Hades. So for the most part, Greeks tend to win 4 out of 5 times. And for Tyr, it does win because it is like the worst case scenario. There are scenarios where Aries could win. It's mainly due to a stat difference.
No, it's not. You're wrong. You're wrong.
You're wrong. No.
But no. So that's about it. Again, it just seemed more prominent to just do a video like this instead of doing an actual edited versus matchup, because once you break it down, the Norse pantheon has never really felt like gods. They're just a bunch of, like, hobos with fucking magical powers half the time. They don't really scream divine, and while the Greeks might be at times weaker, they still feel more godlike than anything in the Norse pantheon.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So, do you have anything else you'd like to add, Manu? Can we end this video up here?
Overall, I'll just say that, like, the main issue with this subject is that the Norse just don't really have a lot of they don't have a lot of gods at their disposal. Like there just aren't a lot of gods in general. You really only see, and they only have 2 games as well. You really only see most of the gods of the Norse pantheon in one game, and then you're just mainly dealing with Balder for it. Like you kind of have to like look around for everybody. Like maybe even pull in Thor's entire family just so that you can have a pantheon. Whereas like I have gods and that to spare in the Greek pantheon. It's not difficult to find people.
Yes, unfortunately, the Norse did not have that, and the remaining gods who we could use for the Norse pantheon aren't really worth talking about. It's just Freya's brother and the 2 sons of Thor,
They're
and
not beating the remaining gods in the Greek pantheon, because we could also bring in the remaining gods in the Greek pantheon, and that's like Hercules, Helios, Artemis. Pretty sure like, well, no, you could probably throw in Persephone and like a few other people.
What's Persephone gonna do? Fuck her opponent to death?
She can actually grab you and basically put you into a.
No, that's on me. I thought you said Aphrodite. That wasn't. That was...
No, as I said, Aphrodite.
Yeah, you said
I was gonna say,
my bad.
well, Persephone can actually put you into a deep slumber when she grabs you. She can send you off to a dreamland. So she has sleep manipulation.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Oh, and then there's Thanatos as well. I don't know if you mentioned Thanatos.
Not really aligned with the gods. He's not a part of their faction. Yeah, I mean, he's a god in the same way that, like, I guess Aphrodite's a god. Was born directly from Uranus, so she's technically a Titan. But, you know, same way, like, Prometheus is a Titan, which is not at all. He's not a part. Like, look, if you're not aligned with the Olympus gods, then you're not a god in my book. I don't care what your physiology states. That's not important.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but wouldn't he count as an Olympian god because he does side with Thanatos, or doesn't Thanatos do what Zeus asks of him?
No. The descriptions involving the domain of death make it clear that like the god, like the domain of death is feared by both gods and mortals alike. Like no one sets foot there. He just claims that Kratos is basically a pawn in a game that he does not understand. So he's like the only reason he's there at all is because you're told your brother is in the domain of death. But that was that's because the gods went into your village because an oracle told them in the future that like Olympus is going to be overrun by the marked warrior. They go into Sparta and they find your brother Deimos, who has a mark on his face. They abduct him and take him away to the domain of death, chuck him inside, and then fuck off. Like they have no interaction with Thanos outside of that, or Thanatos outside of that.
All right. Yeah,
a bit disappointing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we're done then.
All right, sounds good. So, with that said, thank you guys for your time as always. Have a nice day. I'll see you guys on the next stream or video. Take care, everybody.